Kia ora guys, my name's Chris Dorr and we're here on our local river and we're going to give you a couple of tips on how you can better catch these fish here. Now, firstly I come down here to swing. It's just perfect. On this river here you've got to cover a lot of water. It's wide, it's deep and it's slow. Casting upstream means you spend all day fanning out the odd bit of ground and you're unlikely to cover the fish where they need to be covered. Now, the way to get deep, you can either run off and grab 20 foot of your stupidest, heaviest T material, or you could use a T tip that you can comfortably handle, comfortably manage and control and make it fish that little more deeper. Now let's have a chat. Now, the first thing you need to consider is how you'd like your swing to act. Do you want to get deep and stay deep right throughout the swing? Or is there a gutter or a drop off, such as I have in behind me here, that you want to get deep in amongst? You then want to fish it very slowly and controlled, but then you don't want your fly to stay deep right throughout and snag up in those shallows. Because on a bright, calm day like this, there aren't likely to be many fish in those shallows. Right, so the rig I'm likely to employ to hit that gutter is going for a shorter but heavy section of T-tip. And here I've employed around about 7 foot to 8 foot of T14 material attached to around 10 foot of 12-pound fluorocarbon. What we're looking at doing now is putting on a heavy cone head streamer on the end. What I'm going to do is I'm going to aim to pitch it out across the current or slightly upstream. I'm going to throw a big mend in to release the tension on that line, and I'm going to allow that streamer on that mono to get as deep as it can do, aided eventually and kept down at that depth momentarily by that short heavy tip. As it drifts down through there, I'm going to slowly walk my drift downstream, again to retain a tensionless drift, allow my tip and my streamer to get deeper. I may also choose to slip a little bit of line out at the end just to give it that final little wee surge before I let things pull up tight and slowly follow it around the current. Now, what about when I get further downstream and I get across that drop off and I'm confronted by a long, wide, slow, deep channel? I want to change my rig. Now, a lot of anglers don't change their tips enough. They'll put on a tip at the start of the pool, they'll fish their way down to the bottom of the pool, they'll increase the speed of their swing so they're not catching up on the bottom, or they'll slow their swing to get deeper. You know, either or works, but I prefer to switch my tips out 2, maybe 3 times per section to accommodate the water I have down below me. So we've just discussed how I'd fish that gutter. Slow, deep, and then let the fly rise up over those shallows by using a shorter, heavier tip and a longer mono leader with a heavy streamer. Now downstream where I have more of a uniform depth, uniform fly, and I want to go for a long, slow swing, I'm going to employ a longer, heavier tip. So now I'm going to go to my 12 foot of T material. And I'm going to use a shorter trace and most likely an unweighted or lightly weighted streamer. So as it's slowly swinging across that drift there, it's going to be adding a lot of movement. Every time I pulse the rod tip, it's going to lift, it's going to slowly fall. And part of movement's important in grabbing attention. A slow, uniform swing of the fly may do it. However, by giving that fly movement, you're giving yourself the advantage on these fish. Okay, step 1 is going to be simply to send a cast out downstream at a steep angle to that current, quartering at 45 degrees or even shallower downstream there. I want to cover as few currents as I can on the way down. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do a pull back mend. Now, as I raise that rod tip, I'm going to let line slip out of my fingers. Now I'm going to clamp down and I'm going to lower that rod. Right now, my line is now drifting downstream without the tension of the rod and the line, and it's going to allow that tip and that fly to get deeper as I need it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep my rod tip wide as my line swings inwards. As it swings in, I'm going to follow. Notice the term follow rather than lead. By following the line in, I can slow down that drift. I can keep it where I want it for longer, but I can get a very, very, very controlled swing across that entire current. As it's swinging, I might impart more movement. Just pulse the elbow every now and then, and fish it and lead it all the way into the bank. Now one thing I don't want to do is allow my line and my fly to hang immediately downstream of me for too long. Directly downstream takes are quite hard to turn into hookups. So what I'm going to do is, as that fly comes along there, and it's swinging into that downstream position, I might simply move myself out to the side here, walk in towards the bank, slowly lead my line all the way in. Now don't forget to retrieve your line as if you're expecting fish. If you're just stripping it at the end there, chances are you're going to miss the opportunity. Take a couple of short strips, pause, maybe pulse it. Do whatever you can to entice those fish to eat, because remember, a moving fly is a sexy fly, and that might just grab that fish's attention that you might have otherwise not had the opportunity to catch. Anyway, that's just a couple of quick tips today on how to achieve deeper drifts, more controlled drifts over a couple of different types of water. So get out there, put it into practice, experiment, because there are no hard and fast rules, and hopefully you get to experience a more successful winter. I'm Chris Dorr, and thank you very much.